I hope you have your popcorn out. This might be quite comical and interesting to you. I am relatively new to social media. I did have Facebook there for a while. Well, I still have it, but I'm hardly ever on there. And it was mainly to keep up with family and friends. So, my social media experience, why am I sharing this? It's because I wished I would have had somebody who would have been able to help me navigate through that a little bit better, but never mind. I worked through it and I have powered through and I have learned lots of lessons from it. So hopefully if you are new to social media and especially Instagram, hopefully you'll find this information informative. I also have been on this journey with Instagram into really, it has really helped me define relationships and my thoughts about relationships and what it is that I liked, what it is that I don't like. I have literally talked to hundreds of men because I had that influx of new kid on the block and I was not prepared for that. That was a little bit, it wasn't a little bit, it was quite overwhelming to me. I was not used to having that kind of melatonin. And so I will say that I was very inept at the beginning. I am much better because practice makes perfect. But I've been able to literally talk to thousands of men. There have been some really wonderful gentlemen that I have great respect for. There have been impersonators and there have been plenty of scammers. So we're going to talk about how this social media realm has given me new adventures in the art of relationships. So as I mentioned yesterday, I'm in IT and I kind of apply relationships in the same process. You know, you go through discovery, the discovery phase, which I call the safe zone. This is where you're just getting to know each other and you're asking safe questions. Then you go into the strategy phase, and the strategy phase is really talking about compatibility. You're delving a little bit deeper into topics. Still relatively safe, but learning more about compatibility, your likes, your dislikes. And then you go into design phase, which is really about future building and, you know, start having discussions of what your future could be like with each other. And then it is the execution phase where you go into being committed to pursuing that future together. So those are the 4 stages, and they are, once again, discovery, strategy, design, and execution. So first gentleman that I started to talk with online, he actually engaged with me on LinkedIn. He was an absolute gentleman. He was the first person that I really started talking with, and he was from another country. It was really nice because I was able to see that he was actually a legit person because he had his LinkedIn profile there that I could check out. And everything that he had been talking with me, I could verify, which was very important to me because I had been aware that there was, you know, scammers, those type of things, impersonators. I was not planning on writing my story. It was with him as we started engaging with more about ourselves that he encouraged me to share my story with him. I was very nervous to do so. It was very frightening to me. And his comment was, you know, the more you talk about it, then the less frightening it will become. So talk to me about this. And he just listened and he asked lots of questions. And like I said, he was an absolute gentleman. We went through the discovery phase, and I would have to say we went through the strategy phase. And that's where the conversation ended, because in the end there was some compatibility issues, mainly with communication style, and I could recognize that. But I will always hold a special place in my heart for him, because it is really because of him and listening to my story, asking me questions, that gave me the first idea to start writing my story and sharing my book. So I am grateful to him. All right, so then we go into the next gentleman. The next gentleman, I actually discuss him in my book, and the reason I do so is because I later found out he was an impersonator. And he was using stolen profile pictures from another gentleman who has 5 million followers. So that was my first experience with an impersonator. But I talk about him in my book because there were things that occurred that really made a profound impact in my life. And I personally believe that every person and every event that comes into your life for a reason. It gives you lessons to learn. They aren't all valuable. It's how you interact with them, but it is through the successes, and even more importantly, it is through the failures that you learn better how to succeed. So let me talk to you about this individual. At this point in time, I was writing my story. I was just on Instagram, and I was challenged. Let me just put that. I wasn't challenged. I was an emotional wreck. And the reason being is because if I was going to share my story, I wanted to be able to share the true, real, raw emotions of the experiences that had long-term ramifications in my life. So I would write, and then when I finished a chapter, I would record the chapter. And I just let the emotions flow. I allowed myself to go back in time mentally and experience those very traumatic and painful events, and to share them openly for the first time. These were things that even my children never knew anything about. So the videos had me crying. They were extremely, extremely painful to watch because I was crying, I was talking very slow, I was pausing. They were not easy to watch. And at this point, I was being bombarded with gentlemen wanting to talk to me on Instagram. I am a strategist and I am a researcher. And this particular gentleman, and I'll just reference him by D. This particular gentleman, out of all the gentlemen who were talking to me, this gentleman went and watched my videos. And then he began to engage in conversation with me about the videos, asking me questions. And I have this window of comfortability with age groups. I'm 57. I can go a little younger, I can go a little older. With this gentleman, he was past my comfort zone for a little bit younger. And I mentioned that, and his response was, well, it looks to me that I'm going to have to try that much harder, so that's not much of an obstacle for you, so that's not an obstacle for you anymore. So we continued to engage. He wrote eloquently. He articulated himself well. You could tell that he was intelligent and was able to express himself. He was a phenomenal listener. There started to be flags for me when I, said, look, we've been engaging for a while. I was going more into the strategy phase of compatibility. Let's take this to the next level. Let's talk on the phone or do a video chat. He only lived 4 hours away. I wasn't ready to meet him yet, but I was ready to, talk on the phone or to do a video chat. And he would commit to doing that, and he never followed through. And that was a warning sign for me. The warning sign for me was, okay, you either have a girlfriend or a wife, and you need to keep me hidden. So then he approached me one time saying that, he'd had a family emergency. He was really stressed out, and we would, he had to deal with that, but we would talk later. Because we were only 4 hours away and we had talked about a potential life together, we were delving into that design phase. I offered to drive out and be there with him since it was only 4 hours away. Silence. And that's when I knew, okay, so there is a reason why you're not wanting to talk to me on the phone. There's a reason why you're not wanting to do a video. And there's a reason why you don't want me to drive 4 hours in your time of need to be by your side when you have said you would like to build a life with me, when you had expressed your feelings of love for me. And that's when I disengaged and I blocked him, because I will not be the source of another woman's broken heart. And because of his choice, that's when I decided to block him. And later on, I did find he was an impersonator, using using stolen pictures. But here's what I've learned from him. So remember I said every person that comes into your life and every life experience can give you insight and learning opportunities if you choose to learn from them. I did care for this person. He wasn't real, and I understood that. But the lessons I learned was this. I could go and get into another relationship eventually. He kind of broke that cold heart of mine, and I was appreciative of that. Because he was really into physical fitness, or the pictures, the stolen pictures, he was into physical fitness. It really helped me get more into, working out more. He said he would run in the night, not in the night, but in the early morning when the city was asleep, and I used to do that. I don't do that anymore because I'm not in an area where I feel comfortable doing with that. But there were things that I learned from him that I appreciated about him. And one of the things that I appreciated is I realized that I enjoyed that type of attentiveness, somebody who would actually listen to me. And what impressed me the most, and what I learned the most from Dee, was that I would want somebody who would know about my story in great depth and detail, and be willing to ask me questions and be able to learn about the experiences that I had in order to better understand how to love me. So even though he was an imposter, he never asked me for money. I can't say that about others, but he never asked me for money. And those are the lessons that I've learned. So even though he was an imposter, and I can't respect him for that, I could never trust if he popped into my life, because he had a nickname for me, and if he ever showed up and popped into my life and called me by that nickname, I would know that was him. But even then, there would be absolutely no way that we could ever continue, because the relationship started with a lie. And that was the other thing that I learned from him. The importance of the discovery phase, that safety zone, being able to establish trust and respect. And you establish trust and respect, it's the triangle. And the foundation of the triangle has 4 corners. And that is commitment, consistency, clarity, and composition. So commitment to having those type of continual conversations. You're committed enough to have conversations with each other. Consistency, establishing how those communication and conversations are going to be on a consistent. It doesn't matter if it's daily, it doesn't matter if it's once a week, it doesn't matter if it's, every couple of weeks, but together you decide the consistency. And then clarity, being clear in your expectations of what you're wanting in that relationship. And yes, you're starting off with just getting to know each other. And you want to be able to say, you know what, let's go slow. So having clarity as far as the speed of moving forward in that relationship. So those are all of things. And then the last one, I say composition. And what I mean by composition is being the ability to be able to articulate what you are desiring in that discovery phase, and your ability to communicate that effectively. You're first being able to establish that composition of how your communication style is going to be. Because if your communication style isn't compatible, and you don't have those solid 4 cornerstones of the foundation of the triangle, trust and respect cannot be built. So the first thing in discovery phase that you're going to want to do is to really work on the 4 C's. Being committed in communication. Being consistent in your communication. Clearly expressing what you are wanting in communicating. And then making sure that your composition, your ability to put together your words and your thoughts and your emotions and your feelings and expressing them appropriately in a safe zone. Establish that first, because then you will gain trust and you will gain respect. And because there's so many impersonators and because there's so many scammers, you're going to be able to have to do that. Communication is not just about typing or a phone call or a video. It is how you communicate on, for instance, your profile. You should, on your profile page, you should be able to show all four different aspects of life balance. One should be able to go in and research you. So if your profile is just selfies, that's just not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it in the discovery zone. You need to have information to understand, your thoughts and your personal philosophies on the physical part and your financial. And I'm not saying you have to put your money, how much money you make. But what are your thoughts and feelings about finances? Do you believe in investing? Do you believe in savings? Just your philosophy about money and finances. Don't share how much you make. Nobody's asking. Then you're going to also want to have information about your spiritual side. That may or may not be tied to religion. There are There are times when you may want to, openly share, hey, this is my religion, this is how I feel, but being able to also share your spiritual side of your philosophies, and then relational. What are your thoughts about relationships, friends, families, colleagues, those type of things? Those are all things that in this discovery zone, that foundation is formed. So it's not just through chat, it's not just through words, but it's that visual. And it is your responsibility. It is your responsibility to prove you are who you are. So on Instagram, you may want to do live. You may want to do live chats. You may want to go and post videos. You have to be responsible. It's nice if they can go into a Google search. I mean, if you Google search my name, I'm out there. You'll see all the pictures are consistent. You can look me up on LinkedIn. There's plenty of information out there, but I understand that not everybody else is that way. A lot of people don't use LinkedIn. But there has to be a way for somebody to be able to prove that, or gain confidence and trust that you are who you say you are, because pictures are stolen and they are used by scammers and impersonators. So that is my first couple experience in the social media realm. We're going to continue on. This is going to go on for many, many days because I've had lots of experience. Hope you enjoyed it.